Hello everyone, welcome to the Naviate Accelerate webinar. We are joined by my colleague Batul, and we're going to be going through what the industry demands: automation, speeding up processes, and accelerating your work. Welcome, Batul.
Thank you very much, Craig. Yes, I'm the Naviate Technology Manager for Architecture. I have a global clientele, and we work within the industry where we try to accelerate and speed, processes in design and management. My main focus, though, is to look at nurturing and listening, nurturing our products and listening to our clients, and to see how we can better produce our drawings and become more efficient within our daily work. It's good to be an active listener. It's good to try and listen to see what the problems are and how we can provide solutions as well at the same time. And really, when we're looking at the industry where we're at the moment, so I come from an architectural design and technology background. When I first went into university, I thought, I'm sure I've come on a design program, a design course. What am I doing understanding and learning IT and almost becoming an IT person or an IT guru in itself, to try and understand the way that software works. And a lot of people within the industry went into architecture or design or engineering to do things by hand because, you like to kind of almost model things, and whether you're using clay or whether you're using the drawing boards and the scalpel and the pens and the pencils and all of that was exciting. And so a lot of people got into architecture and design because of that, and because they're quite passionate about that. And so what we're looking at today is design technology and becoming more focused on what software we're utilizing. And so because of that, we need to take a step back and think, well, why is it that design flares are no longer as what they used to be? The way that design was being promoted or created or drawn, the fascinating, cathedrals and Gothic architecture and all of that. Why is that flair kind of going out the window when we're looking at designs? Is it because our software is restricting us to become more boxy in the way that we're designing things? And so this is why I'm so passionate about this role of looking into technology and how we can improve and streamline, and which is why I'm assuming you've asked me to come on your webinar today.
No, great. Thank you for that intro. And I think, that's right. Get architects, designers, engineers getting to do what they do best.
Absolutely.
Rather than doing the mundane tasks. Well, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, put that in the chat and we'll look to address that in the end. So Batul, could you basically just give a summary of what Naviate actually is?
Okay, so Naviate in itself has a lot of different software underneath it. And today's purpose is looking at something called Accelerate. Now, I'm just going to share with you something where you can go in for the viewers on the call, can go in and utilize the QR code if they wish to look into a bit more about Accelerate. But Naviate itself, there's Naviate for Revit. So if you use Revit, that's good. Naviate for Civil 3D, and we've also got Naviate for the cloud as well, or Naviate Cloud. Now, Naviate Accelerate. Let's break it down, Craig. Let's think about the word accelerate. What does accelerate actually mean to you? Let me ask you the question.
Well, to me, accelerate is how to move in a certain direction, fast in a certain direction.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people maybe who are listening in to this conversation, accelerate, to me, I always thought back to when I was driving, when I was learning to drive. So learning to drive, the instructor says, foot on the accelerator, let's get faster. And you're trying to get to that certain point, like you say, you're trying to get to that point B, but much quicker.
Yeah.
And so Naviate Accelerate, if we look at that analogy, is trying to speed up processes and optimize designs. And we're trying to, look at project documentation. Data and documentation is crucial within what we do. Back in the day, yes, we had the drawing boards, yes, we had our pencil markings next to it, but now we've actually got that data, and you almost kind of become a bit cloudy in terms of, well, what do I do with that data?
Yeah.
So with Accelerate, you can have a look at streamlining how that data is being produced and where you're using it. We're looking at optimizing workflows, pre-configuring certain items. So Accelerate in a nutshell is to speed up your design processes and to help you go back and focus on design again. So yeah, that's what I would say is Accelerate within a nutshell.
Great. I mean, for me, I've used it quite a bit over the last little while, and you know, as a Revit add-in, it's quite intuitive just to go in and use it quite easily. And I've seen so many benefits for my workflows. Just every time I open it up, I seem to find some sort of time savings, you can say. So is Naviate discipline specific?
No, it's not. And here's another slide as well that I can share with you. So Naviate is not discipline specific. If you have got architecture, Naviate architecture, structure, fabrication, site and landscaping, or MEP, then Accelerate comes with it. So it's almost like you get two products for one, okay? It's not discipline specific just to those. So anyone else from rebar, HVAC, plumbing, etc., can electric, you know, they can utilize that where they need. And so having Accelerate, it basically is not just focused on architects. It's not just focused on structures. You can use it with whatever discipline you've got. It's there to kind of help you with your sheet management. Everyone needs to produce sheets. It's there to help you with your data. Everyone needs to produce data. And so really, it's not discipline specific, I would say.
No, I can see that. It's pretty universal. I mean, yeah, so no matter what practice I go in, you know, as a consultant, whether it is engineering, construction, design, whatever it is, there's those same tasks that everybody has to do. And this is like, how can we speed those up?
Yeah.
And we're going back to that thing we said before. How can we get these highly qualified people to do what they're good at instead of pointing and clicking?
Absolutely. I think it's crucial that those laborious tasks, the ones that can take you a long time to do, they might not be difficult, but they can take you a long time. And that time period is, I know it's something we're going to be talking about a bit more in this webinar, but that time period actually will give you more time to do your designs as well.
No, exactly. That's great. So what would be some of your favorite tools out of this? Because I know it covers a lot. Naviate has plenty of tools, but what are some of your favorites?
So my personal favorite is Edit Parameters, because back in the day when I was in practice, I was working on a school building with one of my colleagues, and I remember my colleagues spending weeks, or a long time anyway, going through changing a specification for floor finishes for classrooms. And it just takes a long time going through the spreadsheets within Revit, or your schedules within Revit. So for me, when Edit Parameters came along and I was introduced to it, and I was just, this was such a relief, because I was able to kind of go in and just change something in an instant, copy and paste, copy it to Excel, bring it back in if you want to. You know, it's just Control C, Control V, the things that, you know, you would normally use within Word or any other kind of platforms. And so the functionality that we can now incorporate within Revit was just, it's something that you can even imagine.
Yeah.
You know, I say back in the day, this is, you know, 2013, 2014. And so when trying to look at what we used to do and how much time we used to spend, I mean, deadlines were so close. We had to produce things, you know, in 6 weeks, we have to produce really detailed drawings and sections and things. And we don't really have time to focus on the schedules. And this is where the mistakes can happen and come to site. And when you get to site, you've got the wrong things installed and it's no longer up to date. And so it's really crucial to kind of manage your project. So Edit Parameters is, for me, is my favorite within Accelerate. But if we just kind of take a look at some of the features, there'd be something here to capture our audience. So just kind of looking into Accelerate, if you're surfing Revit all day long to look for your families or see what you've got, what you haven't got, we've got family browsers. You know, there's that kind of stuff that you can look into. If you're more graphical, and this is where most people like the color elements tool, because it's graphical.
I do.
You can color your elements. You know, if your windowsill is at the wrong height, you won't know just by eye. You have to go in and see the dimensions, or you can just use color elements, and that will point out to you in a different color that your window's not at the right height.
I think for me, on the management side or coordination side, BIM coordination, to me, visual checking of elements is so crucial. Not just going through clash detection programs and things like that, which can be, you're relying on something that is in 3 dimensions, but you're seeing a data set, and sometimes they don't match. And I think that's a great way for you to control your project just from the management. That's my side, right? But certainly from a presentation side, I can see that too.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, a lot of people come to Accelerate and use Accelerate thinking from an end user perspective. The management side of things is a whole other level. You know, we need to be able to and see what data we have within our projects, and how they're represented, and have we done what we need to do, or do we still need to continue? You know, so I think it's really important that we that we focus in from a management perspective as well as an end user perspective.
Exactly.
It's an all-round perspective.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I think for me, well, going to your parameter point over there, I think that's crucially important, how the industry is going. The quality of data in terms of conventions, naming conventions, when you're looking at ISO standards, COBE data, all of that, it becomes more and more important. So if we're able to change parameters easily, always better.
The golden thread of information.
Yes.
You know, we need to be able to access data at any time when we need, you know, firefighters going into a building, and there's been tragedies and things like that. So, you know, the Grenfell tragedy and just kind of going into a building and understanding the layouts of the building, or understanding the core functionalities, where the staircases are, you know, things like that, of where we can actually go in and access as quick as possible in terms of emergency services. You know, there's a lot of focus on that data. You know, we spent years, you know, putting data into models, but what happens? The data just resides there. We've got lots of data centers now, you know, being built up across the world, but there's a purpose for that, because that data is becoming more integral. You know, in the past, maybe we'd say, or even still in the present, we'd say, oh, I have no idea where that might be. I don't know where that's located. And, you know, we're coming with the digital twins, you know, and we're coming with knowing where a certain location is, or where a certain room is, or where a certain, you know, signal might be coming from. And so, you know, just from changing your boiler and understanding the data behind the boiler, and understanding who's the manufacturer, or what the warranty is, and getting a notification maybe on your phone to tell you that, you know, you need to change it. So we're in that era now where we're looking at capturing that data, and the edit parameters feature in Excel, in Accelerate, allows us to kind of capture that data as best as possible.
Yeah, no, I think that leads on to my sort of favorite tool, which is the Excel exchange, you know, pushing and pulling data. Well, I'm looking at it in two sides. Firstly, as populating data, as well as quality control checking. So, and I think, you know, it's well utilized, I think, within the industry at the moment, but I think it's also underutilized. I see that the potential of it hasn't been realized fully yet. One of the things I like is that single source of truth. And when you're looking at things like document controllers, are you allowing document controllers access to your data directly from the model? Well, now you can with that Excel document. Let them look at that data, do the quality control that way. When you look at things like specifications, right? If you've got a specifier who's perhaps not Revit savvy, well, populate an Excel document, use keynotes. I love keynotes, by the way, and start linking it in, and using the knowledge of the designer to start placing that data in the correct spots and populating the model, instead of having to do that manual process, which and of course, when it updates, you update the Excel document, it updates your model across all the data sets. So I think that's super important, that single source of truth, really.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned a single source of truth and working together. You know, you're getting the entire office working together, whether you're senior management, whether you're, and then you don't have a Revit license, whether you're, you know, admin, or whether you're specifier, whether you're document controller, whether you're a designer. Everyone still is inputting data into that Revit model. You know, and .csvs are really, really important nowadays. It's almost like the file format that can be an intermediator or a mediator between different platforms and between different people. And so, yeah, .csvs, Excel files, functionality, I can see why that would be a favorite tool. And it's very close to edit parameters, I suppose, but it's, you know, it's taking it through, and you can use your formulas that you use in day to day. So
I think everybody's an Excel expert at this point in time. So use that as part of your workflow, rather than using, for instance, the Revit scheduling, which can be a little tricky sometimes in getting fast changes to happen. But another tool I like, which saved me a lot of time recently, is the labeling tool within Accelerate. So I had this facade, very complex facade on a curved building, and every side of this building, it was pointing in 3, 4, 5 directions, right? So I had hundreds of panels, thousands of panels on a high-rise building to do, and this would have taken me a week for the whole building, but just a floor, perhaps even a day or two. But with this tool, I could really get to a really high, good level within an hour or even less, and that's what I thought was quite powerful with this. So what are some of the, because we're talking about automation, and the key with automation and Accelerate is how to get things done quicker. So what are some of the time savings that you've seen for yourself?
So with the time savings, we've got just with the schedules, what I was talking about earlier, I'd probably say there was weeks saved there. For certain tasks, so that was with schedules and kind of editing the schedules out. So that's weeks saved from what would normally happen. So imagine a couple of weeks, now you can focus back on designing. Things like, your sheet parameters, we can sheet parameters and creating views. If you've got 900 sheets on a project, you can populate them straight away with the views that you want. You can edit where the views are and have the views in exactly the same spot in terms of coordinates on the sheet. Things like that would tend to take you hours, weeks, hundreds of hours to create hundreds of drawings. You've got 900 drawings on a project. You can have placeholders for them. You can, populate things so that it's so much easier, and the team know where exactly they're populating the drawings and how they're going to do it. And with it, naming conventions becoming more of an importance as well within industry, it's nice to have that, kind of in line with that. So I would probably say, certain tasks you're saving yourselves, maybe hours is now seconds, and weeks is now hours, or weeks is now even minutes. So it depends on the task that you're doing. Parameters, coloring, creating filters, for example, you might have to click 20 times for one filter. Now you can click 3 times maybe to get yourself a filter set up for a lot of different clicks.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it earlier, perhaps, was just searching. We constantly search.
We're file surfing all day. All day. So, you're constantly looking for a parameter, you're constantly looking for a family, you're constantly looking for a folder. So all of these things is, again, kind of going back to the word accelerate. We're trying to get to point B, and we've listened to clients, and clients say, oh, well, we spend half of our day looking for families. Well, okay, well, here's the tool now that we've developed to go with that. Oh, we spent, 3 weeks doing this particular task. Okay, well, tell us what task is the most laborious for you, and we can have a look for something. And and that's the way, it's a tool that's created by professionals for professionals. And, we're looking at optimizing basically our processes.
No, that sounds good. And I mean, for me, I can just see how this accelerating your work, and just how it seems to always benefit no matter almost whatever task you're doing, how this can really just become an asset to the project, the team, the company overall, really.
And just in addition to that as well, with time savings, sometimes employers are looking to employ someone else. Looking to get someone else in because we don't have time, we don't have the resource. And that's what we're trying to cancel out here is the fact that everyone's always running after a deadline. This way we can maybe be a bit more prepared, a bit more laid back, a bit less stressed about the entire product. So it's all about bringing back time and how time is valuable for you. So, if I ask you, Craig, if you had 5 minutes extra with your day, what would you do? Would you sit and have a cup of coffee? Would you go and play golf? What would you do in that 5 minutes?
I'd probably just do what I'm, qualified for, and that's to actually maybe do some design.
Absolutely. Or think about a different angle. It'll give you that time to kind of step back. I don't know if you've ever been, to a colleague's machine, and when you look back from a colleague's machine and you think, I know where the issue is, because you've got the bigger picture. Once you're close to your machine and you're constantly looking into your own work, sometimes you've got this tunnel vision. You're just looking straight into what you're doing and you're not looking at the bigger picture. That 5 minutes can give you that time to kind of think back at your design. Is this really the best design? Shall I do another design iteration? You know, shall I focus on this area a bit more? And that way we produce buildings that feel much better to be in, rather than buildings with no ventilation or buildings with, you know, lack of, I don't know, daylight within a certain room or something like that. So we're looking at something where you feel comfortable within the design, within the building that you're in. And when you step into it, you think, wow, this is an impressive building, you know. So that's the kind of feel that we want designers to have again, you know. We want designers to feel like they can do that for people.
Because the pressure's always there to do things quicker. Deadlines aren't getting longer, they're getting tighter. And we need that time back to be able to do these things.
Absolutely.
I think another point about automation really is that firstly, it speeds things up, as we've discussed, and that's fantastic. But I think a point that a lot of people know, but sometimes overlooked too, is accuracy. So when you've got repetitive tasks, the more you do it, the more chance there is of a mistake, right? But when you sort of automating it, you can have a lot more accuracy spread over a lot of wider area. And I think that's important. You know, the bigger the data set, the more chance of these things sort of creeping in. And these tools help you to be more accurate. And so, I mean, what more do you want? Quicker and more accurate. So I think that's fantastic, really.
I mean, when we look at software, like anything, there's always limitations. So, you know, Revit has limitations. And so we come in with looking to see, well, what can we do to ease some of those limitations, provided, of course, that we've got the API access and things like that into developing those kinds of plugins. So we look to see, well, what is it that we can do to streamline? What is it that there's limitations of that we can now increase the speed of? So, you know, going back to the car analogy, you know, there's a limitation on speed. Yes, you might have your speed showing through more than 70, but the motorways might say 70, you know, so you've got limitations, but is there a way around that? And so, you know, the limitations that we go around that is, well, okay, we'll put a speed limit on the car. You cannot go on, you know, there's vans that says limited to 70, you know, so it's, or cannot go past 70. So we can do the same with our software. We can go in and see, well, okay, what limitations do we have and how can we surpass those limitations? And by providing that information, then, but, you know, everyone to focus back on design.
Well, I think that leads nicely onto the next question, which is, what is the development like on Naviate? How often do you see updates? What can you expect when you purchase the software?
Okay, so every day is a school day. And the day that the day is not a school day, that's the day when everything goes constant. And you stop developing. So what we as the team do is constantly look to develop, look to see how we can make things better. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, so coming back to that old saying, so if something's not broke, don't fix it, means that if something's working okay, then okay, that's brilliant, it's working okay. But can we make it better? Okay, well, if we can make it better, then let's look at this. Why would we want to make it better? We always look at use cases as to, you know, when we sit down with the development team, amazing, by the way, really great time I have when I sit with the development team, because the amount of kind of knowledge that's around the table, and you know, you're looking at things maybe from an architectural perspective, you want it to look aesthetically nice, and you know, you've got the QA, the quality assurance people in the room, and you've got the developers, and you've got the architects and structures, depending on which team you're in. So when we're together, we come at it from different perspectives. Is it reasonable? Can it be produced? What's the use case for it? You know, are clients really needing this particular plugin? We're not going to develop something that's going to just sit on the shelf. We need to make sure that we're developing it with the client in mind. And most of the ideas that come through either comes through from you know, our trainers, our consultants, or from our clients directly. So we have a page where clients can go in and submit their ideas. And we've got a community on that as well. So we can talk about the ideas online. But if a client submits their idea, we consider it straight away. Every week we review So management will review, senior management will review the ideas that come through, it'll filter through, and every 2 weeks we have a conversation about, shall we think about it? Shall we do it? Is it going to be reasonable? Can we put it within this next release of our product?
Yeah.
That's how quick it is. And, you know, within 12 weeks, 12 to 13 weeks, someone's idea can go into fruition, and someone can be sitting there in Revit going, that was my idea, you know? So it's really good to see something grow and nurture, and like nurturing it to grow into this lovely kind of working idea. And yeah, so within development, we look to see if the product is going to be of value, if it is going to add value to a project. You know, is there going to be any negatives coming out from that? Is that going to hinder something else, a process? If it does, we stop and we think about how can we have solutions to that. Or are there limitations with Autodesk Revit? Maybe we cannot produce that just yet. And so, yes, and there's been products that we've developed, maybe Autodesk have developed many years later. So we have to maybe remove a product. It's fine, because as long as the accessibility is there for the users to be able to go in and utilize those, you know, the tools that we have within our ribbons, and the ribbons look integrated. I mean, it looks and feels like it's native Revit.
Yes,
you wouldn't know once you've installed it. If you've installed it on my machine and I didn't know, I wouldn't know that.
An interface, a slick interface is so important to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so there's 2 points there that really resonate with me. Is firstly, when you're making your investment, you'll see it continuously stay an investment, right?
Yeah.
If it's being updated all the time, it's relevant now, and it will continue to be relevant, and it will continue to be improved. And so if you integrate this now, you know that a lot of these plugins, you know, you buy it, you purchase it, and in 10 years it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And it becomes less and less useful.
That's the constant. Every day is a school day. We need to develop. We need to kind of.
We need to push those limits,
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's great. So you know that you're investing in something that is going to maintain its value.
Yeah.
And the next point is the second point was, it's by professionals in the industry that are working to develop these tools. So you know that it's practical. You're seeing, because as consultants, as trainers and everything, we're on the pulse. And I think that's really critical.
Absolutely. And the team is vast. You know, we've got a large team and we work together closely with our clients as well. If an idea comes through from a client, we ask the client, you know, is this what you've meant? You know, is this what was meant by this particular point and by this idea? And if not, then okay, let's look at these different iterations. And we don't just produce something very quickly and then just go out with it. No, we have to test it. We make sure that it's okay before it goes out onto the market. And so, you know, the updates are quite simple and straightforward. And our theory is, let's keep it simple. Let's, you know, go into the market with what we have that will work nicely as well. Try not to overcomplicate.
Sounds good to me. So how do people who are interested get in touch?
Well, we have our marketing team who will be in contact with everyone who has registered for this webinar today. And then they can book an appointment either with myself or yourself, Craig, or anyone else of the team. So if someone who's listening into this today from a structures background or rebar background, etc., we'll put them in touch with the relevant people there as well. It can just be a chat. From there, it could just be an email. It could be a conference call. Depends on what they want, but yeah, marketing will be in touch with you, so you don't have to do anything yourself. And then following that, there'll be something set up.
Well, that's brilliant. I appreciate that. Thank you, Batul. And I think that's it from us. And but yeah, please, you know, follow us on our socials. We've got a whole series of webinars coming up that are on the pulse, as we're saying with Naviate as well, of the industry. So look at our socials, keep up to date, and thank you for joining. And yes, speak to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Craig. Bye, everyone.